here. And I'm not sure who exactly posted the first version of this that I saw. This is the first one that I bookmarked. So this is from Yaksik. But before I get to that, hello everyone watching in the future. I do apologize for having a a severely truncated recording video today. If you'd like to support me, please go over to my Ko-Fi, throw me a few bucks. If you want, sign up to do so regularly, or decide for yourself to do so on a regular schedule, and I will absolutely put your name in the banner here with Simon JJ and the Orangutan Gang. Okay. So, from Yaksik, I do apologize if I butcher this pronunciation. I have no idea who this person is, but Kai Sinat kept having to look up what certain words meant during his reading journey to become a better speaker. Now, apparently, a lot of people are making fun of him for doing this. What he's doing isn't looking up a word. He's searching how to pronounce a word, and that's not a bad choice. And we'll just watch this. It's a minute 22, so.
Spontaneity.
Now, I will give you the heads up. The word he's trying to figure out how to pronounce is spontaneity. And, yeah, if you're not 100% literate and a very high-level reader, and even so, if you've only ever read the word, you may pronounce it spontaneity. It's difficult for me to mispronounce it on purpose. But you may pronounce it spontaneity, for example, because it doesn't really look like spontaneity, unless you're aware of, the linguistic twists that are required in the English language.
I'd pronounce that. Spontaneity.
And bless him, he's still trying to work it out before the search engine kicks it back for him.
Oftentimes, when I don't know what a word is pronounced, I get to
how, not what, by the way.
Look at how it's pronounced and what it even means.
Spontaneity.
No. The way he just repeated it, it feels like he's probably said it before and may simply never have seen it in print. I've had that with technical jargon. There is a lot of technical jargon that I find. I just don't know the word. Even a word as simple as exeunt. I've seen it in Shakespeare, and that's pretty much it. It means everyone leaves the stage at the same time. So it's a mass exit. And I may be pronouncing it wrong. It may be pronounced exeunt. Or exeunt. I don't know. I've never actually heard it pronounced. Only ever seen it written down. But looking at it and applying my, to be fair, educated guess to it, it looks like EXEUNT is pronounced exeunt. Whether it is or not, I don't know. Maybe somebody here will actually tag me and tell me. Let's see. We've got a few Canadian stories here now. Let's do the international one first, though. Let's get this out of the way. This one is similarly infuriating, unfortunately. From Blender News. Western governments admit they engineered societal collapse, funded bioweapons research, ran an open borders experiment, justified tyranny through public health, pushed millions into poverty, and created the largest upward wealth transfer in history. Yeah. So we'll let Mr. Blender speak briefly, and I will interrupt for the two reasons. I'm not Hassan Piker, and, I'd like to actually make comments where they feel appropriate to me.
Governments worldwide are finally admitting that they engineered the downfall of our societies.
Not like we didn't fucking know that.
A recent U.S. report confirms what so-called conspiracy theorists...
The difference between a reporter and a conspiracy theorist is about 6 months.
...have said all along. COVID likely came from a lab in...
Likely. It's pretty well confirmed now.
...incident involving dangerous, taxpayer-funded research. They also went on to admit...
This part irritates me to no end. Because we knew it was being done kind of under the board. Or, yeah, underboard. But now we discover...
that the vaccines were recklessly rushed, skipping proper safety trials and led to significant harms.
I mean, if you were a complete imbecile and paid no attention whatsoever in school, you would, I assume, somehow be unaware of the fact that any scientific advancement requires testing, especially if it's medical and intended for human use. The fact that that couldn't possibly have been done before the vaccine, not thoroughly, before the vaccines were released, should not have missed so many people.
And said that schools were unscientifically closed.
Schools were closed because teachers' unions, which wield far too much power, decided that they didn't want their members to be at risk. So they overrode the wishes of parents, the needs of children, and the in some cases the law of the land, because it's not legal to keep your kids out of school too long in some places. They basically said, no, we don't care. These people pay us. And they're talking about the teachers, of course.
Causing unprecedented learning loss and psychological damage to
Yeah. Roughly a 20 to 25 point IQ deficit between the Zoomer generation and the next. That's disturbing. And not to be disparaging to the Zoomers, but I've interacted with some of you on Twitter. You can't afford to lose any.
children. This confession by the U.S. comes just weeks after the Canadian...
Excuse me. Yeah, this is the part I was talking about that we knew was happening under the board, but to discover that it was actually being allowed to happen is a bit much.
Government released a report detailing how our top security biolabs sent deadly pathogens to China's military to be used in the dangerous gain-of-function research.
Yeah. It's beginning to be very clear that conspiracy might be the right word, but it's not us.
Which eventually led to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, across the ocean, British leader Keir Starmer admitted that Western nations had been running an open borders experiment. Mass migration wasn't some unavoidable crisis, it was a deliberate decision by world leaders.
We knew that anyway. 20 years earlier, they were telling us we were overpopulated, we shouldn't have kids. They waited 20 years until the obvious demographic result occurred and said, oh, there's not enough of us for replacement. We need to bring in foreigners. Yeah. The experiment isn't the end goal. And I don't think it's necessarily an experiment. I don't think these people are that stupid.
Isn't about governments failing to respond to unforeseen problems. It's about deliberate actions, one crime against humanity after another. In the past 5 years, they've funded and engaged in risky bioweapons research involving deadly pathogens with a hostile communist nation. They enacted global tyranny under the guise of public health, only for all-cause mortality to skyrocket after coercing the public into taking experimental pharmaceutical products.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I thought was interesting. All causes of death suddenly shot up. It's weird. Might have something to do with the fact that we weren't allowed to know if it was a vaccine-caused death or not. Yeah. 75 fucking years, huh, Pfizer? Fuck you people.
They pushed millions into poverty, crushed small businesses, expanded bureaucracy, and facilitated the largest upward wealth transfer in human...
Okay, let's have a look at this. So, weeks of pandemic, 11. Unemployed, 42.6 million. U.S. billionaire wealth increase, $565 billion. 20%. That's sick.
In history, they launched mass psyops to scapegoat and gaslight anyone who dared to dissent, tearing apart friends.
If you think that ended with COVID, I would like to point you to the elbows up anti-American sentiment in Canada right now that is somehow facilitating Carney, our Prime Minister, going to China to create tighter ties with a slave-using communist dictatorship, and the EU, which is arguably less communist and potentially less slave-using. Yeah. One tyrant scratching the back of another. Yeah.
families, and communities in the process. Framing these actions as mere incompetence or
Yeah, don't ever assume incompetence where malice will suffice. You're far better off.
well-intentioned mistakes is an insult to the truth. Governments and
It's an insult to our intelligence.
transnational corporations amassed unimaginable amounts of wealth and power
Also, I will point out, some of that wealth is still illusory because there was an awful lot of money printing being done.
during a mass casualty event they caused.
Planned for.
Anything less than international trials for these psychopaths is a mockery of justice.
Not going to happen. Who's going to oversee the trial if it's not going to be the same people who are at fault? Yeah. The government has investigated itself and found itself to be completely not in the wrong.
We cannot let those who lied, thieved, and tyrannized their way into societal destruction to bury their immense guilt in sanitized reports,
I hate to say it, my friend, but what are you going to do to stop them?
only to continue ruling over us while collecting taxpayer-funded salaries. It's time we see real accountability. No more empty reports, no more political doublespeak. It's time we learn what justice looks like.
Okay, so I do appreciate the sentiment. However, there is a big problem with the idea of somehow making these people accountable. The only way to do that is to do what the Dominion Society is doing, what the OGC, the Old Glory Club in the US, is doing, what several different organizations have attempted to do in the UK, and that is to build a base to create change on a generational level. It took generations to get us into this mess. It's going to take generations to get us out. We don't have that many generations left. We're only 8% of the population now. When the boomers start dying off, it's going to get a lot lower. And it's kind of a toss-up of whether or not we'll be swamped by foreigners by then. Okay. Let's see here. What's this one? No, oh, yeah, okay. Since we're talking about accountability, this is the one to use. I'm not 100% sure how much veracity there is to this, but it does feel... It's not unlikely, let's put it that way. So from Table Salt, Canadian opposition MP reveals that Mark Carney has quietly given his ministers the power to exempt any corporation from almost any Canadian law. Yeah.
You won't believe what Mark Carney tried to hide from
So this is Michael Cooper, the MP from Alberta for St. Albert Sturgeon River.
Canadians. Buried within Carney's massive 700-page budget bill.
A 700-page budget bill. Now, how many of you think that the people who voted on that read the whole thing? Or any of it?
Is a measure that gives cabinet ministers wide discretion to exempt any entity from any...
Also, I will point out, it makes it very difficult for journalists of any sort, whether they are the traditional mainstream journalists, alt-tech guys like me, though I don't really think of myself as a journalist so much as, you know, I'm just telling you stuff. I guess reporter would be kind of right, though not so much. I see things that I think other people should know about, so I tell you about them. And ideally hope that you go down the rabbit hole yourselves, because I'm getting kind of burned out with rabbit holes. I've dug a few too many, seen a bit too much, stared too long into the abyss, and kind of gotten sick of having the abyss stare back at me. Yeah. But, as I was saying, the whole journalist thing. How difficult is it for you to pull apart a 700-page document and find not just each section that could be bad, but how the bad section impacts other bad sections, or other legislation, or potential future legislation? Yeah. These gigantic bills should not be allowed. It should be one bill, one issue, and that should be it. The budget bill is slightly different. I understand that, but even so, 700 pages? Nobody's going to read that in the time they require to make a decision to vote on it. None of the MPs, rather. So they trust their bureaucracy. They'll trust their underling to read it and say, yeah, this is okay. Or, no, don't vote for this. Yeah. Or they'll vote along party lines in general anyway.
Federal law on the books, except the criminal code, for up to 6 years.
Yeah, so corporations are exempted for up to 6 years from anything that isn't in, or almost anything that isn't in the criminal code. Whew. That's not good.
So what this means is that any minister in Mark Carney's government could give any individual or corporation the ability to bypass virtually any federal law. The scope that a minister would have to exempt an individual or corporation from federal laws is extremely broad. The minister only needs to claim that an exemption would encourage innovation, competitiveness, or economic growth, and is in the public interest. That could mean just about anything. So take a big corporation bidding on a federal project. Under these powers, if a minister determined that the project would facilitate jobs and economic growth, the minister could decide, for example, to exempt the corporation from the federal government's procurement and contracting rules and award a sole source contract to that corporation.
Yeah, they could do that. They could also say, oh, you don't need to worry about that environmental assessment. We'll just assume it was done, or we won't even assume it was done. We'll just exempt you from it. Yeah.
Bypassing the bidding process.
Yeah.
What sorts of situations could that be? Well, I mean, it could mean that Brookfield could be exempted from complying with the Lobbying Act.
Gee, why would Mark Carney want Brookfield to be exempted from the Lobbying Act? If you don't know, I recommend you go and hunt down that connection yourself. Yeah.
From having to report all the times that they're lobbying. It's pretty obvious that the exercise of these wide powers could open the floodgates to all kinds of conflicts of interest and corruption. And to top it off, a minister would have wide discretion to keep the public in the dark about having granted an exemption. A minister could hide the scope, the particulars, and even the name of the individual or corporation that the exemption was granted to if the minister determined that it was in the interest of protecting so-called confidential or personal information. So not only will ministers have wide and unprecedented power to exempt individuals and corporations from laws and regulations without any checks and balances, they also have wide discretion to do it secretly, behind closed doors, without any level of transparency.
Yeah, I think that's enough of that to get the general gist. But basically what's going on is, it does look like, well, the Liberals are going, how did I put it? Yeah, well, would you look at that? We beat America to one thing. We got the corporate Gibsonian dystopia before they did. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Well, in further Kearney news, I suppose. Let's do this one. So this is from Andy Lee. Let me just get this to pause. In case you missed it, Mark Carney gaslit the entire nation into believing America was our mortal enemy, so he had an excuse to crawl into bed with China. Yes, but also I will point out that Mark Carney has changed his attitude towards China. Let's go with news. And anytime, we won't do that. Safe search will be off because I don't need it restricted. And we'll go to page 5 because that should be the oldest stuff I can find. And it's not, which is interesting. Let's see, 2 months. Okay, well, I can't find it rapidly as I was hoping to. But Mark Carney has written articles and had discussions in the past about how China is a security threat to Canada. Isn't that peculiar? Now he's over there sucking their wonton. Yeah. Anyway, we'll pop this up and listen to some of this bullshit real quick. Also, I will ask everybody to take a quick look at his posture and body language. Yeah. Of course, the crowd is angry about it because they've been programmed to be. Also, I see Andy Lee follows me, so I'll follow him back. Hi, Andy. Let's see. Okay, well, if we're going to talk about Canadian clown shoes, let's talk about the people marching in them. I'm not putting any sound on this. I just want you to watch. Blow this up, turn the sound off. We're just going to watch these people march in formation first. March, because they're not in formation. Look at how badly out of step this is. There's a guy coming up who has to stutter step to get back into pace. There he is. Look at that. Okay, so from the buck you will, Mark Carney has ordered our Navy to battle ready for the defense of Greenland. Not for our own defense. Didn't send the Air Force up to blow that Chinese balloon out of the sky. No, but by God, he'll fight Trump. If Trump is actually enacting some form of the Monroe Doctrine that says that no foreign power will have influence in our hemisphere, and our hemisphere being the one we share with the U.S., that being the Western Hemisphere, I will point out that if Trump is actually doing that, this is pushing us far closer to conflict with the U.S. than anything else. And sorry for the sniffles. So, this one, and of course, while Carney is busily concerned about what's going on outside the border, inside our border, things that Carney has been party to, continue to get really bad. So from Kirk Lubimov, how many Canadians need to lose their lives to foreigners before enough is enough? This elderly couple, Arnold and Joanne de Jong, I'm not sure, never been sure how to pronounce that, I've heard it pronounced two different ways, were brutally murdered in their house. They did the mistake of hiring the suspects to clean their home. The suspects: Gurcharan Singh, Abhijit Singh, Kushveer Toor. Yes, such fine Scottish names. Gurcharan Singh arrived in Canada just 3 weeks ago on a just 3 weeks before this, on a student visa and never even bothered to attend school. Like so many who scam their way into Canada because no one checks. They needed Punjabi translators in court because they can barely speak English. Mass deportation now and stop bringing them in. Yes, also, the world we live in, there's evil. 3 men accused of killing Abbotsford, that's BC. Seniors motivated by greed, prosecutors say. Well, of course they were. What else would they be interested in? But I will point this out. These are foreigners who, at least one of them in any case, bullshitted their way into the country and then committed a further crime. I don't think they should be deported. That's it. I don't think they should be deported. I think we need to start making statements. Let's see. Speaking of statements, I do like the statement that the Kamloops files are actually Canada's Epstein files. From Jim McMurtry. The Kamloops files are Canada's Epstein files. We'll just have a quick look at this from blacklocks.ca from yesterday. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Rebecca Alti's department yesterday was cited for breaching an act of Parliament in concealing records on the purported graves of 215 children at an Indian residential school. The department was ordered to begin releasing files within 36 days. Nothing in the act allows the department to delay. Meanwhile, they're attempting to make it criminal to question the narrative that has been pushed around the Kamloops Indian residential school. The idea that Canada was somehow involved in a genocide. They're trying to make it criminal to question that, the same way they've made it criminal to question the thing that happened in the middle of the last century. Yeah. You're not allowed to ask questions? Then how are you going to have your doubts dispelled? And don't you think the fact that you're telling us we're not allowed to ask questions makes us have greater doubts? Especially when you're hiding records like this? Yeah. Funny fucking thing, ain't it? Speaking of funny fucking things, Wab Canoe has no sense of self-awareness. Here's Wab Canoe telling us how we're all bad people because we don't like the... Yeah, anyway. We'll pause this here. We'll just... From Harrison Faulkner. I believe I'm following Harrison. Yep. Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe. Yes, that's his real fucking name. No, I didn't tell him he should call himself that. Says America is becoming, quote, a third world country. I know. He urges people to, quote, push the American people and their administration off of the subversion of Western liberal democracy. Yeah, he's concerned that the U.S. is becoming the third world. No, he's not joking. Yes, he really is named Wab Canoe. No, he's not joking. Yes, that is exactly what you think it is behind him.
Jesse Ventura said recently.
You're citing Jesse Ventura. Are you fucking kidding?
That America is becoming a third world country when
Jesse Ventura. Hang on. Jesus Christ, how old is Jesse Ventura? Gotta be 80. 1951. Damn near 80. 74, 75 this year. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, we'll just yeah.
they have military police operations taking place in large cities.
Okay. Those aren't military police, fuckwit. Those are immigration and customs enforcement agents. Good job. Intentionally misunderstanding. My God, every day that millennial woes quote gets even more accurate. And I've taken to calling it the woes gambit at this point because it is a strategy that the leftists employ to pretend they don't understand.
He's not wrong.
Yes, he is. And go fuck yourself, Wab. Also, the reason the background is orange is because Wab is part of the NDP, Canada's answer to the socialist parties of the past.
That is something that should cause all of us concern. And again,
Didger is in. Didger will like this. Wab Canoe's only superpower is his ability to play the race card. He's a socialist clown. Also, good day. Good day, sir. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate this one.
you can be wherever you are on the political spectrum. You can be a true blue conservative. You can
There's no such thing as a true blue conservative in Canada if they're part of the Conservative Party. Get fucked.
be a real life progressive, but
Oh, not a real life progressive. So what you're saying is there is a very big split there. Hey, Wob. Which one's right? As in correct?
all of us should agree on the sanctity of human life.
All of us should agree on the sanctity of human life. You're going to be pushing for a ban on abortion in your province anytime soon there, Skippy? Of course you're not.
All of us should support democracy.
You're a socialist fucking party. Take your support of democracy and go fuck yourself with it.
And all of us should be concerned by what we're seeing happening in Minnesota.
We are concerned by what's happening in Minnesota. It's massive government apparently approved, or at least ignored, fraud. But then, we live in Canada. We're used to having the government rip us off. And help foreigners do it. Wake the fuck up, lady.
Check in on your American friends and family. Let's keep working to push the American people and their administration right now first off of tariffs. And
Off of tariffs. Didger, how much is, what is it, Manitoba he's the premier of? How much is Manitoba suffering? I know, I have to ask you, you're kind of my Western correspondent for this, but really, how much of an impact is the tariffs making out there?
then maybe also off of the subversion of Western liberal democracy. Jesse?
We have Wob fucking Canoe telling us that we need to push the Americans around. We have Mark Carney putting the Navy on Battle readiness. Does the Navy still have fewer operational submarines than the West Edmonton fucking Mall, I wonder? Yeah. There's an old Jock McBile line I would use here. Get stuffed. Anyway, we'll have a quick flick through some of these quotes here. Oh, it's quite late already. I didn't realize that. Government-enabled fraud and other Minnesota politician. MN is Michigan, isn't it? What's Minnesota? Isn't Minnesota M? I don't know. What is the Minnesota? Oh no, you're talking about Manitoba. My apologies. Manitoba politicians are encouraging coordinated violence against ICE officers. Yeah, dude, I haven't noticed the tariffs, right? What is the abbreviation for Minnesota? Just out of curiosity now. I think it's M. I know MO is Missouri. MI is Michigan. MN is Maine? No, MN. Okay, my apologies. It is Minnesota. Anyway, we'll have a quick flick through these responses. I'm going to go grab a quick smoke, and then we'll play a little bit of Skyrim and chill out. Let's see. From the Canucker. The Premier is actually talking about Canada, and I can't wait to become an American citizen of the 51st state of Canada. Manitoba's MB. Thank you. That's right. You'd think I'd remember that, but... I still remember that Quebec used to be PQ, and it was QE, then it was PQ, then it was QB, and I think now it's back to PQ again. Or QC, possibly. But just to respond to this, we should not want to be the 51st state, because we don't need to be a state immediately. We should be a territory, and ideally, once given territory status, we can do what the Puerto Ricans did. Move the fuck out of where we're from and flood into another big city. Los Angeles is really nice, and if you took a bunch of Canadian conservatives and plopped us in the middle of Los Angeles, shit would get very different very fast. Won't happen, but it would be nice. But, I mean, personally for me, I would be headed Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, somewhere below that Mason-Dixon line. I just love that line from Robin Williams, Manson-Nixon. It's just funny. But yeah, we should not be pushing for statehood. What we should be is a territory. The same as Greenland is likely to be inside the next year or two. We should be a territory. We have no real impact on the political process in the U.S., but we get all the benefits of being part of the U.S. Yeah. And my chatbot just scrolled, caught my attention. From Ivan, hey Abi Khan 60, have you got any thoughts on Wob telling Canadians to push the Americans off the, quote, subversion of Western liberal democracy? Shouldn't every Manitoban understand that Wob, besides being a thug, is a dangerous crackpot communist? Fair. Canada should be a functioning country. Guess what, though? Yeah, well, currently we're not. And if we want to get back to that, well, yeah. Let's see. From Mrs. Catherine Gladys, Kathy Drake, says the guy who has thugs and gangsters rough up and assault Francis Widowson on a university campus in his province. Her cameraman was punched in the face. Yeah, for asking for evidence for the Kamloops claim, which we were just talking about. That essentially the Kamloops files now are Canada's Epstein files. They're being hidden by government, against the law, or at least against the rules. Well, it's an act. An act of parliament is essentially a law. So yeah, they're breaking the law to keep these files covered. There's no accountability for where the money went that was given to the Kamloops tribe to investigate. Yeah, curious, isn't it? Let's see, the smugness of the person standing behind him. Let's just watch their faces. I'll mute that again. We'll have a look at their faces while he's talking. This one is a very effeminate-looking Sikh. Which is ironic, because this one is a very masculine-looking Sudanese? Possibly some sort of... I suspect this one might be multi-tribal. It's very funny that the black woman looks less feminine than the Sikh male, though. Canada should be a functioning country, yeah. Yeah, it's... Yep, no, just nod, smile, and look superior, you fuckwits. What else we got here? Oh. Sadie's is in, says, hello. Hello, Sadie's. Just in time for me to not be here anymore. I'm actually running perilously close to having less than 20 minutes to actually do any gaming. But from the Kaiser Speaks, I wouldn't listen to the clown who once habitually posted stuff like this. Riding in my limo back to my king-size suite, feeling really bad for those kids in Attawapiskat. Attawapiskat. Wasn't that a... And Sadie says good evening to GETTR as well. Appreciated you popping in, Sadie. Thank you. Attawapiskat. What was the thing with the kids in Attawapiskat? God, that's a while ago, but not that long ago. Permanent, what is this? Water fix? Okay, yeah. So, yeah, the kids were being made sick by the water in Attawapiskat, things like that. Trump derangement syndrome is clouding the minds of too many Canadians. Yes, it is. Propaganda rejected. Thank you. Seriously, I don't know when exactly that UFO landed and dumped all these stupid people. Okay, here's again, and I will constantly hammer this point. If you look at a politician who's managed to get himself elected and you think, damn, he's dumb, you're a fucking idiot. You're an absolute fucking moron. They don't get there by being stupid. They might not be working for us, but they're working for somebody. Never assume incompetence where malice will suffice. You are far better off that way. What was this? Wob Canoe has seemed to have forgotten the Freedom Convoy protests and old Stompy the Horse. Yep. Russian military ready to attack Ukrainians. Oh wait, that's Ottawa police ready to attack Canadians. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call it there. I'll have about 20 minutes to play before I have to go and mod for my friend Aiden and my friend Spoon. GETTR says hiya to Sadie's. Just having dinner. Terrible timing. Yeah. The kids... Just a second here. I'm going to have to bring up my chat. The kids had alarming suicide rates. Nobody did anything but grandstand. The fat chief jogged all the Fed money and cried for more. Yeah. And not too long afterwards, there was a bit of a suicide crisis here in Newfoundland. And there were some changes made, which really didn't accomplish anything. But it got everybody paying attention to, not just the Indians. So, of course, the moment it was, oh, hey, white people have a problem too, it was, oh, let's not talk about this anymore. Yeah. Only traitors help invaders. I will point out that earlier today we saw Amelia holding this exact same slogan. Glowier, not still a very useful symbol. None of the people appearing in the video above are Canadian. To be fair, we did conquer Wob Canoe's ancestors. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. George Orwell, yeah. America is becoming a that's where we're going to end. America is becoming a third world country, says Wob fucking Canoe. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, folks. Nogged. Hogged. Okay, yeah. Agreed. So, I'm going to end it here for the recording. I'm going to take a brief break, and I will be back, play 15-20 minutes or so of Skyrim, and then I have to bounce out to get ready to mod for my friends Aiden and Spoon. That's over on Broken Crown Podcast channel. I believe they've changed the name to the Broken Crown Podcast now. If you want to pop over there and support them, I deeply appreciate it. They're good people, and chat is generally a good time. Other than that, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.